Alrighty, we are live. I'm just going to go ahead and double check, make sure that YouTube has done its thing. It looks like it has. Hopefully we get some folks rolling here into the comment section here in the next little bit. Let's see, just double check, make sure. I'm the world's most amateur Luddite streamer, as you can all probably tell. And yes. Okay, so we are live and ready to get rocking and rolling. Gata, Jack McCarthy, thank you guys for being in here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to address the elephant in the room, which is, of course, what I am drinking tonight. Evan Williams bottled and bond, good stuff, and some kind of weird concoction that I decided to make. It's jalapeno cherries and tonic water and agave nectar, because that's the stuff that I had around. No, honestly, we're going to start off talking about the events that happened yesterday with Charlie Kirk and his assassination. What I want to make it clear here, I'm going to let, obviously, Harmony is our guest, and I'm going to let her have her put her 2 cents in and on it when we bring her on. But the number one thing I want to say here is that we're going to treat this as kind of a decompression stream, a place where folks can come in, we can listen, we can talk about the nerd culture topic, and we're going to stay away from what's going on around here right now, just so that, like I said, you have a way to, a place to step aside and not have to deal with it for, even if it's just for an hour or so. But what we are going to do is start off with the most important thing we can possibly do. I would appreciate it if, I obviously can't see you. We can't hear you over there in the chat. But if you'd be respectful enough to take 1 second to join me, I'm going to go ahead and just say a quick prayer for Charlie Kirk, and then we will move on to gaming. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and perpetual light shine upon Charlie Kirk. May his soul and the souls of all faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. In the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Okay, so let us move forward. Nerd culture. And one more thing, just in case we all forgot, because God knows we all could, with everything that's been going on. Tonight's stream, just like last week, I'm here to try and help out Aten from We Love TTRPGs. He has an excellent channel. If you're not already subbed and you haven't checked out some of his work, it's very unique, and his perspective is very unique. And he's been going through some very rough past few years, including some personal health issues and that sort of thing. So I want to help him out. If you super chat tonight, that's where it goes. So I want everybody to know that. We are going to be talking about nerd culture. In particular, we're going to be talking about the same tweet from good old Jorge that I covered last week and kind of gave you guys my thoughts. And we're going to get Harmony's thoughts, since she was involved in this as well. She's actually the place I saw it. As you can see, his whole thing, nerd culture is a toxic, lumbering monster that has only contributed to isolate sci-fi, fantasy, superheroes, etc. from the rest of the artistic conversation, and to make the genres go septic and inbred. So if we want them to survive, nerd culture needs to die. Now, Harmony had her 2 pieces. I'm going to let her do her clarification as soon as I bring her on here in just a second. But we're going to quickly cover her tweets and then hit a quick definition, and I'm going to bring Harmony on board. So she immediately had come out and said that, isolate, odd choice of words here, considering that, nerds are well known for evangelizing their favorite media, which is obviously accurate. Nerds will talk about nerd stuff to anybody they possibly can. And then she came in and replied later that she's actually not sure what she thought of the tweet and had some time to think about it. Spoke about nerd genres, and that she kind of jumped in and maybe hit that QT button just a little bit too fast before she kind of gathered her thoughts. You can see here my response to her wasn't presented well, got a lot of knee-jerk reactions, and the irony is that the angriest nerds are the issue. And my whole thing, can you sum up last week's stream, is look how that typical online nerd reacts when someone gets a tiny piece of lore wrong and the change is blasphemy. She later put in these two. Oops, I'm gonna put it one at a time apparently. These longer ones. Hear me out. Guy has a point. She's gonna try to explain it. Now, I've kind of come to the conclusion myself by looking at his threads, and I've kind of seen some other people that kind of jumped on to point it out about it, that it's probably not what he meant. She was, as always, giving him a tremendous amount of grace, which is her way, but apparently not his. He was probably being more reactionary than she gave him credit for, but saying that she's not on board fully and that she's got these takes, that are there on the surface, and that there's all these media references, but those references go back as well from classic storytelling, and the originals do get lost, and she's absolutely 100% accurate about that, in my opinion. So, without further ado, we are going to bring on Miss Harmony Ginger.
Hi.
Harmony, say hi to everybody.
Hi. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I'm in. Oh, I hear an echo of myself. Why is that? Oh, I think that
That's
was through
probably
your
my fault.
headphones. Okay, I hope you guys can hear me okay. I'm in a new environment because this morning the power supply on my computer died. And so I kind of moved a makeshift workstation upstairs. And I only really have one room to do this in, which happens to be the same room that I'm housing a bunch of kittens. They're back there. Um, pardon the change of scenery. This is my guest room. Anyway, um, first of all, oh gosh, I don't even know where to start. I don't know if I should start with that tweet or what. If you guys don't know who I am, I post a lot on Twitter. I feel like everybody in the chat knows who I am. Everyone in the chat knows who I am. I don't know about everyone else, but I post a lot on Twitter, and a lot of times I kind of post things as I'm thinking through it, and that's sort of what happened here. When I started posting about this tweet, the percolations of thought had not yet concluded, and I was just sort of thinking through it as I was posting it and being like, okay, he's got a point here. I don't really agree with him here. I think I probably did extend too much grace on that. I think you're probably correct in saying that. And I will say that 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I probably still haven't concluded my thoughts on it because it's a very complicated subject. You want the kittens? Here, you want to see the kittens? All right. That's what everyone in chat's saying. Let's see if I can get them good there. You see those nuggets? Okay, this is Mama Cat. She's taking a break. And back there in that box are 6 kittens. Let's see if I can get this any closer.
If Harmony falls off the frame, I'm blaming
I'm not gonna.
you guys.
Okay, let's. Here we go. I'm not gonna pick them up and show them because they don't want that. Oh, look, my camera's messed up. Can we refocus? Apparently you guys get me blurry today. That's okay. So I also kind of want to start by saying, this is gonna be a weird stream for me. I think a lot of you guys, I've had a tough last couple days. I don't normally get political on Twitter. I definitely did today. I don't like to get political, but yeah, I think a lot of us are in shock and mourning right now. So this is kind of, I actually considered talking to Daniel and saying, this may not be the best day for this, but I think it is, because I think sometimes we need a distraction and to move on and talk about something lighter than the horrible thing that happened yesterday. So, anyway, yeah, I have cats back there. I don't know. There are a bunch of them. There's 7 actually, including the mom. But yeah, so they're not going to
Never
bother
a
me
bad
yet.
time.
Yeah. You might hear
You
them
got to
though.
catch up, though.
Huh?
Got to pump those numbers up. Those are rookie
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah. Well, you know what? We should have delayed for 2 weeks, and then that would have been a nonstop
But it had
issue.
more kittens in 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, they'd be bigger. Um,
I'm talking about only having 7
but
of them. I've got, I think, 11 right now in the house.
oh my gosh. Well, that makes me feel less bad. Anyway, on the tweet about nerd culture, I still haven't really concluded my thoughts on that. So I think that Jorge said a lot of things that provoked a response here, and I think I, I I want to say my final thoughts on it are that some of his some of his diagnoses were, I think, correct. I don't really agree with his prescription. Have you? So I want to kind of talk about something else tangentially related, though. Have you read the article? This is like one of the most famous blog posts in hobbyist culture. It's by David Chapman. It's called Geeks, Mops, and Sociopaths in Subculture Evolution. Have you ever read that?
I have actually not read that one.
Okay.
I'd like
Okay.
to, but I haven't.
I think it's very, very related to the tweet and kind of something I was thinking about as somewhat related here. So basically, the idea is that this happens to so many subcultures. And we can take like Star Wars, Marvel, lots of different examples here. And I know these were like ones that were Disneyfied, but I think we can look at a lot of different examples of subcultures. And how it starts out is you have the geeks, the people who are really, really into it, right? The geeks are the ones that like contribute a lot of the original stuff. They're what make it cool. They are the ones who are completely obsessed. They are kind of the founders of the subculture, right? And then you have like fans that come in, and the fans love the geeks. The fans still contribute a lot, but they do a lot more organizing because geeks are socially maladjusted in general. Not always, but you know, we a lot of times, yeah. And so you have the fanatics, and the fanatics are like people who are more socially well adjusted but less geeky, right? They don't delve as deeply in, but some do. They just don't contribute as much primary source material, right? So you have the fanatics that come into the hobby, and then you have what the article describes as mops. Mops are members of the public, right? And you have like the mass appeal suddenly because the geeks started it, attracted the fans make it cool, and then suddenly you have like this explosion where you have all sorts of like members of the public coming in, right? And the members of the public are kind of, so we call them now normies, but they don't contribute to the hobby. They consume. The thing that they contribute to the hobby, the thing that they bring in is money. So they will bring in money, and they won't delve as deeply into the hobby as like the geeks and the fans do, right? They want the surface level stuff. They're the things like if you talk about something like Dungeons and Dragons, they're the things that you're like, okay, well, let's dumb this down for you a little bit. Let's make this less about numbers and more about stories because everybody loves stories, right? So you kind of, and I don't want to completely say dumb it down, but you give it more mass appeal because the mops, they have money. And so they come in, and at a certain point, this kind of eventually will lead to the destruction of the subculture, right? And
Yes.
they also will bring with them, embedded in the mops, you'll also have sociopaths. And the sociopaths described in this article are kind of, they're people who are there to make money. They will fit in with the geeks. They're actually better at extracting money than the geeks are. They're better at getting money than the fans are. But they will come into the hobby and they will do all they can. They'll dumb things down, they'll give it mass appeal, and they will find ways to monetize. And through this, at this point, this is when like the geeks start to leave because they're like, there's nothing for us here anymore. This is not what we envisioned. This was not what we created. Some of the fans will leave, some will stick around. But this kind of leads to the explosion and then slow death of a lot of subcultures. And that's sort of kind of tangentially related to what I think Jorge might have been getting at. So a lot of people, I think, read his tweet and were like, oh, you're talking about gatekeeping harder. You want to gatekeep nerds out of their own hobbies. But I don't think that that's what he was saying. I think that I think he was speaking more about how a lot of nerd cultures have become overrun by. So a lot of nerd cultures are based on works that are derivatives of derivatives of derivatives, and they self-reference each other so much. Like you have people referencing books that came out today, referencing media that came out today, who have never really read or understood the works that those things were based on. I think that that's kind of more what he was getting at, and how nerd culture has sort of become like so self-referential and invaded by members of the public who aren't really nerds, like they're fair weather fans. And I think that that's where he was going with it. That said, I understand my interpretation is quite charitable, and I understand he used a lot of language that was not the greatest. It was, yeah, inflammatory, I think, is the correct word for it. Whereas I was trying to kind of explain it and not be inflammatory. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where I am with it. Now, the thing is, I don't think that that's universally true with every hobby. I think that there are examples of hobbies where that hasn't happened. I think it is true for some hobbies.
I think the more concrete and the less creative, I guess you could say, the hobby, the more insulated it's going to be. So, like, for instance, if you look at like racing or car culture, it's going to be really hard for that to die in that fashion or be influenced in that fashion, because you're dealing with something that's essentially an engineering project. It's very scientific. It's very concrete. You're going to have some arguments about how things work, but I can literally put it back here and demonstrate it. Whereas when you look at something like writing or filmmaking or gaming or something like that, it's such a creative endeavor that is so abstract that it's going to be more susceptible to that kind of thing. But with Jorge, I honestly think you might have him backwards, because from what I look at, I don't look at him as looking outward like you do, or like you're saying. I look at him more as looking inward, and basically I see a target for him, and this is what I got from it, was that his target is, following the same flow of the article you described. And since I haven't read it, I'm just going to go explicitly off of exactly how you described it.
Okay.
So you have the end when your sociopaths come in and start to heavily monetize it, basically trying to mine harvest right pastures. So they come in and that starts running the geeks off. All right, they start leaving the hobby this is what assignment for, which I do think is what the OSR thing. That was probably your moment where a lot of your geek designers and that sort of thing. Hold on a second, I'm feedback here. Let's see if I can correct that.
Okay.
Let's see if that helps. I don't know if that helped or not. We'll find out. But yeah, it's I got a guy pointed out there. There's a static that's coming from your mic, and I'm not figuring out where it is.
Oh, is it mine?
Let me make sure it's yours.
Mine.
Yeah, it's yours when I muted you.
Okay. I don't hear it, so it's probably mine. Yeah. Hold up. Let me just check my connections. Oh, it's worse now? Oh, jeez. Guys, I apologize. I'm on like a really inferior setup. Let me just make sure it's using the right mic. Was it like this since the beginning? Oh my God.
No, it just kicked in here a few minutes ago.
It's because when I muted,
As is typical,
I fixed it.
as it is typical for me, right when I started talking, that's when your static came up.
So it's because I muted myself to cough, and when I did, StreamYard went to my embedded mic in my laptop, which was, yeah. Okay.
Okay. But you're better now, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is, I think he's targeting with his comments those embedded nerds, like the ones that stuck around. Like if you want to say the geeks that stuck around, the OSR, we took our ball and left. 4E, 5E. Some people would even say, towards the end of 3E.
Yeah.
Whatever. We're packing up our ball. We're going home. We're going to do our own TTRPG hobby over here. But you had the ones that stayed behind who are still very militant against it. And then the OSR side of it, very militant about letting any of those people come over. And I think he was targeting the people who are like fascistic about what is supposed to be a TTRPG, what is supposed to be this type of game or this type of genre or this type of film.
So I think that's a reasonable interpretation. I think reading the responses to the tweet, it was fairly unclear to me. And when I don't know, I prefer to extend a more charitable interpretation until I know otherwise. That's just who I am. I don't like to assume the worst of people when avoidable. But because I found it very unclear when I read the comments. But this was also like 2 weeks ago, so I'm not 100% if I'm remembering correctly. But I mean, I think we do see some of this in our subcultures. So I think driving is probably very, very different than TTRPGs. I think you're correct about that. But I'm going to say that the reason is not that it's more science-based. I'm going to say the reason is the barrier to entry. I want to get into cars, Daniel. How much do I have to spend to do it?
Depends on what you want to do.
I want to, yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
I want to start working on cars. How much do I have to spend? What do I have to buy? I have no equipment.
You're probably going to need to spend, at least a few $100s on tools. You're going to need to obviously have a car to work on, and you're going to need to understand the mechanics of how that vehicle works. So you can get that for free on YouTube these days. But a super cheap, just get it running project, you're probably looking at even if you start with something reasonable that's like $1,000, you're probably spending $4 or $5 grand on it.
Okay. So let's say I want to get into TTRPGs. How much do I need to spend?
Technically zero, but $60.
All right. I think that's the main reason that the main difference here is the barrier to entry, because while there are a lot of people who really, really love cars, in order to get into car maintenance, and I apologize if I'm talking about car maintenance, like I have no idea what I'm talking about, because the reason for that is I have no idea what I'm talking about. But the barrier to entry is a filter. It means that only people who are truly interested in this project and this hobby will be there. Whereas with TTRPGs, having like a $0 filter, or let's say at most $60, you buy like a player's handbook, and $60 is a bit high, but it has I would say like less than $100 to entry, because you maybe want to buy dice. So less than $100 barrier to entry means that pretty much anybody can spend $100 to join this hobby. Whereas you have to have like some dedication, some real interest in the hobby in order to join like car maintenance hobby. Is that what the hobby's called? What is the hobby called?
Well, they'd either be restoration,
okay.
whatever the case may be. Nobody really has a
Okay.
farm maintenance hobby, but like you want to fix them up and restore them, or you want to take them out to the track and race them. And there is definitely a barrier to entry.
Remember,
But
you're
I'd
talking to
counter
a
that
girl.
with sports. Well, I would just counter that with sports. So I'm gonna go right after that girl thing. I'm gonna hit all your weaknesses.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna
All
go after.
right.
We're
Cool.
talking about sports. Even if you're like a true football fan, like all of us down here in the South are diehard SEC football fans. At least the ones of us that are smart enough to be. Then there's some people who like those other conferences, but we don't talk about them. Anyway, football, being a football fan or a football nerd has virtually zero barrier to entry other than being able to watch it on TV. And you obviously you have people who are just idiots, but barring that, you don't have the barrier to entry, but you still have that protection against it, the hobby so-called dying out, because there's statistics, there's records, there are numbers and hard things you can look at that make it work. And then when you start talking about like things that happen in the games, there's explicit definitions of what a touchdown is, of what out of bounds is, what pass interference is. And those things are going to limit the ability of people to, say, milk it from outside. And then obviously you got multi-billion-dollar organizations that, own all the trademarks and stuff that kind of keep people from, you can go buy your Gantz shirt if you're a Giants fan if you want to save a few bucks.
So my instinct is to say, and this is going to sound really pretentious, but listen. My instinct is to say, well, that's a little bit different because members of the public can really thrive in football because it has less rules and is easier to learn than a TTRPG. I say that, but I would be a hypocrite to say that. You know why? I don't know how football works. So,
well, it
so
also
I can't actually say that.
It depends on which TTRPG you pick, too.
Yeah, it does.
Right now, there's some story games out there that got a hell of a lot less rules than football.
I was just clowning on myself a little bit there because this is certainly a weak point I have. And you can actually see football as maybe kind of an exception to the rule here, or maybe it could disprove the rule entirely. I'm kind of sharing somebody else's thesis here, or I did earlier. This isn't necessarily my own thesis. It's just kind of food for thought. So you can actually see football as like a counterexample because football is dominated by members of the public. I don't know if they normally play it, but they certainly watch it, right?
Yeah. Most of them do not play it.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I don't know if that has made the hobby better or worse. Would football be a better hobby if it was only really the people playing it and not the people watching it? I don't know the answer to that. I'm just kind of posing the question.
I think that can be argued either way. For a purity of the game, it's kind of funny because I'm switching sports on you. I grew up as I grew up as a baseball guy, and I've told people many times in the past. There's one thing about, and actually I have this in auto racing too, but baseball and auto racing share something for me personally, in that I can enjoy it at any level. I would also say that any kind of martial arts probably fits this way for me too, just because I was in it for so long. But I can go watch any level where the actual players are throwing the baseball. I can watch. I can go sit down and be like the only person who's not related to a player in the stands and watch 10-year-olds play baseball and love that day at the park. So there's an argument to be had that the purity of the game, and actually in a lot of ways I'd rather watch that than a lot of Major League ball, because a lot of decisions that get made in Major League ball are done to appease the players union, are done to appease the TV networks. Like they got a pitch clock now where the pitcher has to throw the ball in a certain amount of time. That's done to speed the game up for TV. And to me, it ruins the purity of the game. The designated hitter that they have, which is where the pitcher doesn't have to bat. They just got a guy who sits on the bench and comes out and knocks home runs. To me, that's not baseball. That's done to have more home runs and better pitching so that it looks better on TV, and you can have your Mark McGwire home run home run hitting race as opposed to good fundamentals. So there's an argument that you could say, guess what? Getting the fans and the money out of the sport is going to give you the purity back. But there's also the side that the money being in there means that we're going to get to see the elite and the best players out there. Because the best player is going to go work at a factory if he can't make money throwing a baseball. So there's kind of a to either side of it. There's a balance in there somewhere.
I can't really weigh in on this because I'm a girl, and no,
You look at it as a TTRPG. There's going to be some people out there.
I am. I'm about to. I'm getting there. I'm a girl. I don't really know that much about sports. I guess sports are cool. I think it's more fun to watch people who don't know what they're doing very well, who aren't professional with sports, than it is to watch people who are professional.
But we found the WNBA fan.
Ooh, you got me. That was good. But to relate this back to TTRPGs, I think you find like something sort of opposite in there. I think you can say that like early in the hobby, it was a very weird thing to be into. Like even in the 90s, but certainly before that. And I wasn't there, by the way. I was alive in the 90s. I wasn't old enough to comprehend or allowed to play TTRPGs in the 90s. But I mean, in the 70s and 80s, I think you can certainly say it was a fairly niche hobby. And you had people, especially in the early days, that were there for the love of the game, who really liked the game aspect of the hobby. And I think with each iteration of Dungeons and Dragons in particular, you end up with something that needs to make money. And to make money, you have to appeal to new players. And that's sort of just the corporate nature of the hobby. Like it or hate it, that's just how it is. So they'll come up with like, better art, more flashy art. They'll sometimes simplify mechanics. Sometimes they go all the way in the other direction and release 3.5 or third edition. But eventually you end up with something like 2024, which I don't really know who it's for because it's kind of meant to appeal to like a very broad audience. And I'm not sure that hobbyist games like D&D were ever really meant for a broad audience. I don't know, and I don't know how to fix this problem, by the way. I think my, so if I sound very disjointed, it's because I'm kind of thinking through this as I'm saying it. So I think that really the bottom line and the answer is that group hobbies should focus on the group, and corporatization of group hobbies is generally a bad thing. And I'm not saying this to be anti-capitalism. I'm not anti-capitalism. I'm actually quite pro-capitalism. But I'm talking about like we're going to play as a group, but we're going to play exactly how Wizards of the Coast tells us to play. We're going to play whatever new modules coming out by Wizards of the Coast. And by the way, this doesn't just apply to Wizards. This applies to like all sorts of media giants over group hobbies, right? I'm not even trying to single them out just for being Wizards. But basically, it's kind of a focus on playing what the current trend or thing is, I think is generally bad for group hobbies. I think group hobbies like thrive when you're really focused on your group and you're playing like whatever your group is into. So, I mean, I kind of took it to the next level, and I have my group create our campaign world together, which was crazy. And I'm still kind of working on like how to make the rules marketable, not really marketable, but palatable for other people, because like it's tough to do.
Oh, trust me, you would have a good laugh at my my primary group's Discord server right now. We play in person, but we're currently going through an Oriental Adventures 3.5 edition game.
I love Oriental Adventures.
I
love that. Yeah.
So we're actually playing through Rokugan right now.
That's
We're doing that. We just came off of the Cyberpunk Red game. We play a lot of different stuff.
Oh, Rokugan. So you're in Legend of Five Rings.
Yes.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The third edition and 3.5 edition D&D Um,
Mm-hmm.
they had that was actually during that brief period of time that Wizards of the Coast had purchased whatever company it was that owned Legend of the Five Rings. They owned it for I think like 4 or 5 years, and that's when they released it. So they're like, "Hey, we just bought this Legends of the Five Rings game, so we're going to release Rokugan as a campaign setting." So
Yeah.
that's what we're running. So,
I'm
but I got
a
with my group and I said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to run a game kind of similar to Diplomacy, and we're going to create the campaign world for y'all's next game."
That's
And
awesome.
basically, all I did is I drew up a map. I
Mm-hmm.
created a map and I put it down and I said, each one of you has a corner. You tell me what you want to do with your actions for each turn in chat, in each person's private channel. And we're going to see what it does to create each person's
It's
area. And
it's
I've
an
got one player who has got so much analysis paralysis. She went through 2 turns and 10 total actions and did absolutely nothing. So now we're going back to this idea of her goddess was asleep for 10,000 years because I was like, hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. How many legends start off like that? Oh, we're asleep for 10,000 years and then finally woke up and did this. The slumbering god.
That's awesome,
Meanwhile,
actually.
the other three, I've got one guy who's created bird people who are trying to eat the octopus people that somebody else made, and another dude who's doing his own thing, basically digging the Underdark because you had a giant, the over deity, me, had a giant mountain in the center, and each corner of the world on this supercontinent had its own mountain, and each god had his own giant mountain. Well, this guy down here in the south, the first thing he did was like grind his mountain down till it was almost flat, digging all the tunnels and stuff underneath it. And he's got rivers and volcanoes and moss people and all kinds of crazy
Wait,
stuff going on.
I have always wanted. So, I'm like kind of a human-centric fantasy enjoyer. I don't really. Most of my characters that I play in D&D are like human, and sometimes I'll like branch out and get like really adventurous and play an elf. But the only like non-human character I would ever really think about playing is like an octopus person because I love octopuses. Like they're my favorite animal.
Hey, Joe.
And I've given it thought, like, what would an octopus society look like? Like, my thoughts would be they would like have eh, their language would be completely visual, right? It would be completely in colors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like so hard to make compatible with like an RPG, right? But it's a really fun concept to me. I love the concept.
Well, I think my
Um,
one of my players is actually bringing your idea of life there.
oh yeah, yeah.
Well, that's
I
what
I love
he
it.
made, like a non-sentient kind of octopus people,
Mhm.
and then when the god to the north of her sent his weird crowmen down there to start colonizing and turned it into an octopus barbecue, she turned around and she's like, "All right, I'm creating a sentient octopus race that will fight these crow people, and I'm ripping a giant obsidian coral reef out of the floor of the ocean and putting a giant physical barrier between his people and mine." So she's got intelligent, militant, octopus fanatics now.
Do you mind if I address some things in the chat? I didn't ask beforehand. Some people don't like when I address chat, so
I don't care what you address.
okay, all right.
Let's see here.
Um,
Feel free to. I don't know if you have the ability to or not, but feel
no,
free to
just
click
you.
it and help the show.
Just you do. But first of all, I want to say thank you so much, God of Ka. That means a lot to me, what you said in chat. I appreciate that. Also, Michael had a good question, which was if the art was better and the politics left out, would new D&D 2024 have been accepted by the greater hobby? Um, I think the answer is no.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it was dead on arrival.
It was
Um,
poison. That's a poison fruit of the poison tree, to use a legal term.
so and I can state my reasons why if you don't mind the stream going that
Go
direction because I
ahead.
think it's okay. I think it was poorly timed. So I think even if Wizards of the Coast had garnered more goodwill from their fans, they had just blown up everything with 5e, right? We had a lot of people playing 5e. This was because of, I think, three factors. I think they were Stranger Things, COVID, and there's a third factor. What's the third factor? Critical Role. I think those three things made 5e blow up. Now, it did not blow up with what I referred to earlier as fans and geeks. It blew up with members of the public, right? We had a bunch of normies who had never really played TTRPGs that were playing 5e because they liked Critical Role or because they liked Stranger Things. So these people are not your core fans. These people, I mean, some of them are great people. They're good to have around. I don't mean to insult these people, but they came in because of this stuff, right? And for a lot of these people, not all of them, but a lot of them, asking them to learn a full rule set is a lot. Changing that rule set on them and saying, okay, we're gonna go with a different rule set now. That's a lot to ask of these people, I think.
I think you're right. I think that's a good bit of it. And if you completely pull out all of the, we'll just call them missteps, all the cow pies that Wizards of the Coast managed to step in leading up to the release, you definitely have a point there. And that's true of any D&D system. You had a really odd situation that brought all these people in to actually care about wanting to find the rules. And let's face it, I'm a big 3.5 guy. That would have not happened with the 3.5 rule set. It was way too crunchy. They would not have jumped in on it. They needed something more streamlined. It wouldn't happen with second edition either, or first edition, because all the tables and charts or THACO, even though it's just subtraction, those things would have been enough off-putting to keep, quote unquote, the normies out. But I do think fifth edition still would have had a tremendous amount of success, and I do believe that would have carried over into New D&D 24 had Wizards of the Coast not made it their mission to piss off those the core that it came from. With your original point from that article, Wizards of the Coast decided that the geeks, that true core, and then a big chunk of their fans were the people that they needed to crap on. So they have taken their core base and they've alienated to try and only appease the normies. And you're absolutely right. They're not going to learn a new rule set because they weren't that invested to begin with.
So I wouldn't even say that the big exodus was because of Wizards of the Coast crapping on their fans, as you say. If you're talking about like Kyle Brink's comment about white guys leaving the hobby, I will be perfectly honest. I don't know that affected anything. I think that was the OGL. I think was the big thing. I know you didn't bring up Kyle Brink, I did, so that was kind of an insane comment. I'm sorry.
I think you're actually way too recent. I think you're way too recent on it.
That was the OGL
well, I
recently.
I
wasn't there yet.
I'm sorry.
I think it was the OGL recently. Before that, I think there were also a few missteps, but I think that the core of the hobby, I think the real geeks of the hobby, I think a lot of them did follow into 5e. But I think a lot of them were also playing like OD&D and AD&D and 3.5 and AD&D second edition. And really Pathfinder. Pathfinder ate up a lot of the geeks in the hobby, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think fourth edition is a lot of it because they brought in the story gamer crowd. Yeah. They brought in the guys from the Forge. That pushed a lot of the... a lot of people want to say it's the delineation line between OSR and New D&D is second edition. When it went from TSR to Wizards of the Coast, that's where the problem is. I think that's recency bias. I think that's everybody's gotten pissed off at Wizards of the Coast in the past 5, 6, 7 years, and they're applying that retroactively. It's really fourth edition where that happened. And fourth edition pushed everybody up. They either went to Pathfinder, they started playing OSR games. The OSR movement started because 4E was such a break. It was such a difference in kind from everything before it. Then when 5th edition was there, I think they actually did capture some of that group back. They got some of it back with 5th edition.
Absolutely.
But then they alienated those people they brought back, a lot of them, and they made sure that the others were never going to come back. So they could have, say, done a 2024 D&D that appealed to some of those older gamers and brought them back from the other games they were playing, but they had dumped on them for so long they weren't even going to listen.
Yeah, I think I think that's a lot of it. They weren't appealing to the geeks of the hobby with 2024. They were appealing to the normies. Um, and they didn't do anything to bring back the geeks, but see, the normies aren't going to switch because the normies have a rule set. The normies are playing their adventures and their 5e with Xanathars and Tashas, and probably have a bunch of homebrew on that. And they're so, because the thing is, when you're a DM and you want and you want your group to switch, you've got to ask them to learn a new rule set. And if you're switching to something like Shadow Dark, for example, or like Zero E, you're like, that's not that difficult. Like Shadow Dark, you can learn Shadow Dark in like 5 minutes. It's easy. But with D&D 2024, like a bunch of stuff changed, and a bunch of like stuff that might seem small, but it's still like big changes in the rules, right? And changes as to how things work. And I think a lot of people at a certain point are like, okay, do we really want to reinvest the money into doing this? And do we want to really reinvest our time? We have a version that works perfectly well. Why would we?
Yep.
So I think they lost a lot of people with that. And it's kind of different than like if you, I think my philosophy on this is if you make a new version of the game, your primary audience should be the geeks, should be like the big people who are like fanatical about your game, who will invest time and effort into creating homebrew rules variations, all content about it. You want to attract the geeks because the geeks will bring everybody else over. If you attract the normies, like the normies,
They're
they'll
too
sort
flighty.
of like they'll follow what other people do.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's kind of what I think, and I think that their big misstep was more that it wasn't. I guess you can say it has to do with their DEI and politics and stuff. You can say that's part of it, but their misstep was their broad appeal to the normies and not the narrow appeal to the geeks. Because if you appeal to the geeks with something, they will bring other people there. Because that's just how geeks are.
Well, and let's also be
I guess
fair,
that's my take.
something that's relatively unique to our hobby. And this is, I think, a major misstep with Wizards of the Coast management in particular, because they tried to shift their focus. As a business person, they looked down and they said, these games have 6 players, 1 game master, and 5 players. We should really target everything towards these 5 players, not this 1 game master. And it made sense to them because now I'm targeting 5 of the 6 instead of 1 of the 6. The problem is that your geeks, those are your game masters.
Yeah.
Because to be the game master, you have to have a greater working knowledge and a greater investment by default than a regular player. And because you have to, you end up in this situation, bless you, you end up in this situation where that is your core audience there. And the GMs go out and form the groups. There are no groups without GMs. By shifting their focus in that manner, they basically alienated the people who build their fan base and build their consumer base. Just like you said, it's not just the geeks that are gone that are going to bring people into the hobby. It's literally they alienated the engine that runs their business. To use a car analogy for the folks who know about American system, they
I know
built the
what an
car
engine
and
is.
they took all the pistons out of the engine is what they did. We're going to build a great engine. It's got rods, it's got a crank, it's got heads, it's got fuel pumps and everything. No pistons, which means no compression and no boom and no power. I think this is a good one here. Well, actually, first you want to have the last word on the
Um,
Wizards of the Coast topic there, or move on to this one.
yeah, so I think you're actually mostly correct with they should be appealing to game masters and not players because game masters bring players to a system and not the other way around. However, I want to say, I think Wizards did one thing right. Um, and I want to talk about the one thing that I think I really like that Wizards did. And that is their brand new starter set, the Keep on the Borderlands one. I don't know if it's out yet. I haven't actually looked at it. I haven't read it, so I'm going to like talk about it without reading it, which is great. But one thing that they did is the starter set is designed to make players into game masters and to pass around the game master seat. And I think that is a brilliant move, and that's where they should go. They should, I think the best way to monetize for them in a way that keeps the hobby kind of intact and keeps people playing Dungeons and Dragons in particular is to make some of these players into game masters. I don't think it's a market to players, but to make players into game masters and then sell the game masters, right? I think that's a good marketing move, and it's also a good move for kind of making the hobby spread, because the more game masters you have, these guys, their groups might now have more than one game master, and the game masters might buy things, and the game masters might start their own other group. So I definitely think that was a very good move by them, and that's where I would like to see them monetize. However, what they did instead was they put a lot of resources behind developing this virtual tabletop, which I'm going to be honest, maybe I've been living under a rock, but I haven't heard anything about this virtual tabletop in a while.
And I
don't know how that's going.
And I think this is a classic case of them picking the wrong future. You see, when I look at this, and if I'm a CEO, or if you tell me, Daniel, take charge of Dungeons and Dragons and prep it for the future, find a way to use technology to make D&D blow up and even more bigger than it is now, more prolific. I'm not going to, I need to find a way to take this game that's all about social interaction and groups being together and try and dehumanize it by putting it online so that people, there's some benefit to that, but let's face it, online games are never going to add up to in-person games. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, we've entered into an era where publishing doesn't require me to spend millions of dollars to print warehouses full of books. I can do print on demand. I can do PDFs and stuff like that I can sell. I am taking every edition of Dungeons and Dragons. I am modernizing all the language. White box, and I mean WIGHT white box by the basic expert, would not exist, because I would have already done it, and I would have put out White Box 2020. Here is the exact original rules from Gary Gygax, the exact way it was played. We've cleaned up the language. We've made sure everything you need is there. I would be selling every previous edition, every previous module, and I would be focusing on adapting every module to each new edition.
I think that would have been a great way for Wizards to go. Unfortunately, they didn't. The basic expert did pick up the slack there. I don't know he's a friend of mine, and I think White Box is fantastic. I know you guys, there might be some friction there. That's okay. I don't want to get involved in that.
It's a great product. It's a great product. I've never said anything less than it being a great product.
I believe you. I think White Box was excellent. It was my introduction to basic, basically. So, I mean, that was really cool for me, because I like, the only thing I own of that is, like, I own the PDF, and I own the old PDFs of it, of like the 3-book set, and and I'll be honest,
unsearchable bad scans where it's like a fuzzy picture.
And I reference White Box more. I really like it. I think he did a fantastic job on it.
Gygax is hard enough to read when you can see the letters.
But see, that was the basic expert finding something that he was good at, that he could do to enhance the hobby. And you know what? The stewards of the hobby, Wizards of the Coast, should have done that first, but they didn't. You're right.
That should have been their 50th anniversary, 50th anniversary. Their 50th anniversary should have been a celebration of everything, a re-release of everything, a modernization of the whole thing. Take the entire crew that was working on 2024 D&D, dedicate them to that, and make it a celebration of everything that was there, minus the how much can we crap on Gary Gygax's forwards on everything, and put it out there. I mean, it's yeah, to use
Yeah.
the crude example that Base used in the chat there. It's like, I mean, why are we not getting a Tomb of Horrors and Ravenloft and Keep on the Borderlands and White Plume Mountain and all this stuff reprinted in every edition with new stuff for all these core books instead of Succubus with a Tallywhacker? This is what you get.
Yeah, I don't know about the Succubus thing. I will say they did
They decided to
reprint.
gender swap. Instead of making Succubus always the female presentation, Incubus always the masculine, they said there's now both masculine and feminine.
Okay.
Succubus.
I see. I have to see what they did with the stats to it, but they did reprint Tomb of Horrors actually.
Oh yeah, they reprinted
they
it in
did.
every edition.
Yeah, in 5th edition they did that. It was actually one of the best 5th edition books. It was a
Well, they didn't
reprint of a bunch
reprint
of
it. They did
editions.
Tomb of Annihilation.
No. They reprinted Tomb of Horrors. It's in what's the book called?
The Yawning Portal.
Tales from the Yawning Portal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in there. I wouldn't call it a faithful 1-to-1, but I guess
Okay.
it's close enough.
I'll be honest, I haven't run that version. I haven't run the old version. To my knowledge, it was a reprint. I don't know how faithful it is, so
It's one of my
I'll
favorite.
give you that one.
It is one of my favorite modules. I stand
It's
on that
cool.
soapbox with everybody, and I have me and old T-shirted historian have gone to war more than once over whether or not Tomb of Horrors is a good module.
Okay.
But
I
yeah,
don't have much to add to that. I've read it. I haven't run it, so I don't have actual play experience with that one. So, I mean, if you want to move on to Michael Dale's question here about when did the OSR truly begin? Was it Osric or another system? And what year did we first see the inklings of a renaissance? I'll be honest, I don't know. I wasn't that in tune with the community for a while. I was, for a long time, I was kind of an offline gamer. You guys didn't see me. I was running games. I was just doing kind of my own thing, and I didn't really pay that much attention to the OSR. I think it's at least a decade old, though. It's actually quite old.
It is,
because I know people were. I know people. The OSR was thriving with like Google Plus before they were on Twitter. So
you could argue that it started in the mid 2000s.
Okay.
It depends on what you really want to call the OSR and what you really want to call when it started. Because you could argue, like the RPG pundit would, that it started with basically his war against the Forge. You could say that it started in late 3.5 when Wizards of the Coast had kind of moved on to start moving towards 4E, and it kind of let things run wild when it comes to OGL content. If you ask me, I think it really started at 4th edition. It started with Pathfinder, to be perfectly honest. Even though Pathfinder is in no way an OSR game, it's the same. It's a different symptom of the same disease. Wizards comes out. We're going to do the GSL now instead of the OGL. We're going to take away a lot of what we said we were going to do. We're going to threaten to sue people again. We're going to shift everything to this radically different 4E system. So we're simultaneously going to make you learn something totally brand new, piss you off, and we're going to pick a side between the D&D versus the Forge story gaming crew, the GNS theory crew. So we're going to piss off everybody we can possibly piss off and make 4E. Pathfinder says, well, you know what? People like 3.5, so we're just going to take the best homebrew, or what we think is the best homebrew, codify it, and call it Pathfinder with some names changed and some serial numbers scrubbed off. Well, a lot of other guys said, you know what? Forget you. We'll just remake the stuff that TSR made. We'll just make a new 1st edition. We'll just make a new 2nd edition. And I really think that's where it kind of came into its core, I would say, is with 4th edition.
That seems like a reasonable answer to me. I can't say I'm well versed on the history of the OSR.
Yeah, I would say it's like 2007, 2010 is when I would call it. I think that's really more of a debate for
yeah, I didn't play 4E much.
Yeah,
probably. I only ever played like one 4E campaign. and I quit because the DM didn't shower enough. So I didn't like 4E. My DM needed to shower. That's my only criticism of it. Anyway.
I think we should make that. That should be like in your rule book is please shower.
Yeah. Any rule book I release will have that in a list of like recommended tips. Brush your teeth, shower, you know.
Brush your teeth, shower, don't be a jerk, don't be a creep.
Yeah, why not? Be normal.
Don't fill your game with stuff that's designed to transgress everybody at the table.
Like why? But yeah, I was playing a lot of like 3.5 at the time, so I really didn't delve into like the older stuff until I kind of got in a little bit with the Bro SR and they kind of made me read it. And wait, okay. My take on Magic the Gathering and my take on Commander. Oh, this will be a fun one because I know like nothing about it. All right, so I'll give you my take anyway, knowing nothing about Magic the Gathering or even half the words in this sentence. I played Magic the Gathering from the Kamigawa set to the Lorwyn set. That probably dates me. Let's see. My take on Magic the Gathering. It's pretty cool, I guess. I'm not really a huge fan of trading card games at all. Like I just don't like them because I like when I play a board game with people or any sort of tabletop game, I like being able to purchase the game and then everybody's on the same playing field. And if it's a competitive game especially, I don't like there to be like okay, you have more money, you've been in the hobby longer, your deck is better. I like it to be an even playing field when everyone sits down at the table. And also, I'm not a huge fan of randomized booster packs. I understand what they do to a game, but I'm just not a huge fan of it. If I were to play a card game, I probably wouldn't pick Magic the Gathering. Until about 5 or 6 years ago, I used to play a good bit of Android Netrunner, but that's like a LCG, which is a bit different. I say 5 or 6 years ago. That was longer. Oh my gosh. I'm old. Okay.
You are I tell my Magic.
But okay. So Commander, Elder Dragon, Highlander format. I'm going to assume I kind of know what Commander is. I'm gonna assume Elder Dragon Highlander means that I don't know if he's a special commander or a secret lair. I'm not really sure what a secret lair is. I just know that secret lair is a thing in Magic. Oh gosh, I love Dominion Dundermoose. That's a great one. I used to love that game. I'm BSing right now. So let's assume that Elder Dragon Highlander means that everybody has an Elder Dragon, and no, I don't think they have it in their deck. I think the Elder Dragon is like a single boss that probably everybody has to fight, and it might be a co-optional format where like you have to kill everybody else and the NPC boss. I'm gonna assume that that's what it means. I have no idea. I'm just making it up. I think that sounds pretty cool. I would say with my own made up interpretation of what EDH is. I think that sounds cool. I have no idea how close to the truth I was. I probably nowhere near. So.
You're pretty far off.
Okay.
As I understand it, EDH is a group Magic format in which you have like multiple players and you have a commander and you can only have one copy of an individual card in your deck.
Oh, okay.
100 card decks.
Oh, well, that's what Commander is.
To me, it's Commander is EDH. They originally called it EDH.
Oh, it's another word for EDH. Okay.
Yeah, they're the same thing.
I didn't know. I've only heard that called
They're the same
Commander.
Thing. Commander
I thought EDH was like a new format. Okay.
No, it's just they called it EDH, and everybody's like, "What the hell do you mean EDH?" Like Commander.
Okay.
We're gonna call it Commander because it's easier to say.
I'm aware of Commander. I don't like when I want to hang out with guys. When I go to my friend's house for like a game night, and there's a bunch of guys, and they're sitting there playing Commander, and I'm like, okay. What game do you guys want to play? And they're like, oh yeah, we'll play something after our Commander game. And I'm sitting there waiting for like 2 hours for a Magic game because they're playing like Commander forever. They like, and they all have decks that are just like that tall. It's ridiculous.
They're 100 cards.
Yeah, but they're sleeved. They're sleeved. It's like
when I started, most Magic games were played with 40 cards, and then it was 60 was the standard 60 card deck formats. And you want to date somebody? I'm gonna date myself here. I want to say the dark
Okay.
was the current set when I started
Mm-hmm.
playing Magic the Gathering, and the first time I left was when Marcadian Mass dropped. I came back a little bit for a couple, in and out for a couple other sets. I came back for Kamigawa just because I wanted the cards, even though it's a terrible
I
set.
remember Kamigawa. That
And
was
then I
where
was
I
done with
actually.
it after that. Because
Yeah.
Magic
Okay.
died after Urza's Destiny. It was a totally different game before that. And our featured person of the evening, We Love TTRPGs. Everybody remember, super chats tonight go to We Love TTRPGs to help him out. He actually pointed out a truth that a lot of people are not aware of. Magic the Gathering was originally like Dungeons and Dragons for dummies. You talk about bringing in the normies, bringing in the mops and stuff like that. Richard Garfield sat down and said, "We love this fantasy game. We love this Dungeons and Dragons. How do we make this Dungeons and Dragons that we can sell over and over again, that we can play in 30-minute games and 15-minute games at the lunch table with two people quickly with very easy rules?" And they made Magic the Gathering. It is literally, how do we dumb D&D down to the point that we can play it in 15 minutes with two people and teach them in 5 minutes?
Okay. I am
And that
so,
game,
so sorry.
I
I
had
am
that shit
so
won on the second and first turn reliably.
I am
So
so sorry that you have done this, but you have activated me now because there is nothing that can stop this monologue. I'm sorry. Magic the Gathering is a game of a very unique origin because it was not actually an attempt to dumb down Dungeons and Dragons. Magic the Gathering was originally an attempt to make a two-player version of a very different game. That game, everyone get ready to drink, is Cosmic Encounter. You can
your
look up,
favorite.
yep, you can look up the origins of Magic the Gathering. It was an attempt to make a two-player variant of Cosmic Encounter. Cosmic Encounter was the single most influential game on Magic the Gathering. I know because I am a massive Cosmic Encounter fan. I think everybody knows this about me. So basically, it was the variable player powers and the negotiations that did it. And Magic the Gathering now does not resemble Cosmic Encounter at all. They are very, very, very different. But Cosmic Encounter was the piece you're missing there. I'm sure the setting was inspired some by Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sure there was some inspiration there. What proof should the shot be? No, he didn't bring it up. I brought it up.
I'm unfortunately empty.
Oh no.
Look, um, where I've had that discussion with Aten over at We Love TTRPGs a bit.
Yeah.
He's a Seattle native. He's extraordinarily familiar and was contemporaries with a lot of the Wizards of the Coast folks when Magic was being developed.
Oh yeah.
And that's what he'll tell you was their design philosophy to make it marketable was D&D 2 players.
Yeah.
Now,
But
mechanically,
mechanically, there's a lot of influence from Cosmic Encounter in there. So
exactly. So it clearly wasn't mechanically influenced by D&D. It has nothing at all mechanically similar with D&D.
Right.
Dungeons and Dragons getting a tabletop game or in a card game or a board game.
And I can't help myself. I will find a reason. So it's a game. Like, how do I go on people's streams and find a reason to bring up Cosmic Encounter? It's like a game to insert it everywhere.
If there was a dual drinking game here, people would be drunk because we got Tomb of Horrors, we've got Cosmic Encounter. So we touched on both. Nobody's mentioned alignment yet, which alignment is another one that I get on the soapbox about on a regular basis.
There was a question in chat that I really liked that I wanted to answer, but I forgot it because they made me laugh, and so it's like gone.
If we can find that real quick.
Yeah. I've forgotten it. I guess it wasn't that important of a question. I'm sorry, whoever asked it.
Here.
Oh, it was about the Goodman Games. What do we think of the Goodman Games with their reprints convert slash conversions? Um, I wanna I'm gonna tell on myself a little bit here. I was speaking to someone in the hobby I very much respect at one point in time. Um, and I was talking to him, and I was talking about, I can't even remember who we were talking about in the scene. I don't remember if it was someone in the scene or who it was, but he said, I bet they're so dumb that they bought the Goodman Games conversions because they couldn't read the original module. And I'm like, I look over at my bookshelf, and like all of them are on my bookshelf. And I'm like, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. You're all done. Like, I don't respect you anymore.
Yeah. So I don't really have an opinion. I just wanted to tell that story.
Ouch. Me, I try not to think of Goodman Games. So there's my answer to it.
The Booger Eater editions.
I do have to answer this one real quick. We were this one popped up during the D&D conversation here. Games last between 30 minutes to 2 hours minimum. Politicking makes the game last longer. It sure does. To me, Magic the Gathering games, the early game is shuffling, the mid game is the draw step, and the third game and the long game is did you need a mulligan? Because we're ending this in 2 to 3 turns. If we're going 4 turns, you busted my combo somehow. I ain't deck building to sit here and stare at you for 3 hours. Let's see here. Oh, we got some people talking about alignment, saying they're chaotic neutral. Talking about, I hope he's talking about my series. Alignment, I've been down a series, but yeah, the discussions on that get crazy. I hope it's my series that you're going down. Because I think I'm on like number 10 in my alignment series right now. Getting on up there. Let's see here. If you were transported to the world of Dungeons and Dragons, Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft, or all fantasy games and had to make your perfect character as yourself, what would you choose? Race, class, multi-class, prestige, or anything?
I mean, like, I thought about this a lot. And I've gone back and forth between, like, a few classes. Like, I always thought I'd be a pretty good sorcerer. I've had a few friends say I'd be a great bard if we're talking a game with that class. However, on Twitter, everybody calls me a druid, like just because I post a lot of animals that I find. I live in a very nature-heavy place. I have a lot of animals outside. There are some of them behind me. I know I didn't really show them off, but I mean, I got like 7 cats in a box behind me. They're like 2 weeks old, so not even that. Let's see. You want a better look at my animal companions here.
Go ahead and get them. For me, guys, it would be Jackie Daytona, human bartender.
They're over there, but I got a pile of 2-week-old. Oh, they're crying. Who's crying?
They're upset that you didn't pick a human.
No, they're nursing. Oh yeah, I'd be a human. It'd be like a human druid. That goes without saying. I don't know. I always liked humans. I'm not one of those people that thinks you should only allow humans in your games and like I don't know, there's no room for like more fantastical races. It's not like that with me. Like I have players. So in my games I always let each player insert one race to the available roster of races, and then that's what our roster ends up to be. So I mean, we end up like with some kind of wild stuff that I personally would never play, but it doesn't really bother me, like if they play them, We don't have tieflings in this world, which is kind of okay. I don't know. I don't really have the visceral hatred for tieflings a lot of people do. I will say, Baldur's Gate 3 got on my nerves because I was like, why is everybody a tiefling? Like literally everyone I'm talking to is a tiefling. Why? But
Like
like,
I just got mad at the
yeah,
I just got mad at tieflings myself with because they were always played so poorly. When I was introduced to tieflings, it was like, okay, they're so far removed from their demonic heritage that you can barely tell. They may
yeah,
have some minor thing like little tiny horns or like red eyes or like an obscure eye color or a weird tint to their skin or the beginnings of a tail. And then all of a sudden it was, no, you're just a purple skinned fetish creature with goat feet and horns.
oh
I
my,
mean, this is not, that's a demon, or at least a half fiend. That's not a
yeah.
tiefling.
I'm gonna actually try to see if I can. How do I? I'm thinking about how to show because I mean John Smith just donated $20 and said
Yep.
show us your kits, and like I kind of look $20 is $20, guys. Um, so I'm gonna like try to actually do this if that's okay. Do you mind if I super
Go
derail
right
for?
ahead. We're
Okay, okay. This is
ironic.
gonna be a mess because I'm gonna move my whole laptop. This is like not my normal setup, so I'm gonna try this.
I
First, let's
run a
remove
cat
this light.
rescue. I'm not gonna complain about seeing the cats.
Yeah, so I'm gonna remove my light and let's see what I can do as far as sharing the cats. This is gonna be like really a mess. All right, am I gonna pull anything off my desk? I don't think so. I think it'll be fine.
Yep.
I didn't think I'd be doing this, so. But here we are.
She's gonna freeze herself up. She's gonna fall completely off the stream.
I
It's
don't
gonna be all your
know.
fault.
This is look. They donated $20. I gotta give them what they paid for here.
Hero of the day.
And so now that I've moved this, I'm gonna get my camera. Hopefully I don't like. All right, here we go. Okay. Here.
Is it gonna focus on them?
Yeah. Is it gonna?
Ah, there they are.
Yeah. I don't want to mess.
You got a creamsicle back there?
But yeah. So I got 2 orange ones, 2 black ones. Can you guys still hear me? You can't hear me. There's no way.
Oh, we can kind of hear you. You're a little far
Here,
away.
let's
But
move this closer. There we go. I got 2 orange ones, 2 black ones, a tabby, and a gray in there. They're all piled up in the corner. Oh, look at that stretch.
I wonder if the orange ones are old enough to get their turn with the brain cell yet.
I don't know.
All orange cats,
Yeah.
all orange cats share one brain cell. So it's only every now and then that your orange cat gets its turn to use the one brain cell that they all share. That's why orange cats are so nuts.
Good to know. I wasn't aware. Like, I've heard of the orange cat thing. I've never owned an orange cat, so we'll see. But, oh, you guys can see my mess now. Way to show off my whole room. This is my guest room, so it's a lot of, like, my mom's old stuff. Let's put this back.
No,
Okay.
I saw
There we
Q-tips.
go.
Harmony is Condor. Harmony is Condor. Theory confirmed.
There's like literally no Q-tips. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, here we go. Like I said, I have a bit of a different setup. I might have this for a few days, up to a couple weeks. I don't know. It's because my power supply died on my main computer. So we'll see how long it is till I get that fixed. There we go. You have seen the cats.
There you go.
8 Q-tips. I don't want to talk about Condor. I try my best to like not really mention him. He does his thing over there. I don't care. I wish him the best.
That's my general rule is that I kind of think he should just disappear. So I try to only mention him tangentially. But
I don't really want to have much to do with him. I wish him the best. You know, I hope that everything goes well for him. I don't really like to talk about him. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Man of the
I'm
cloth
not
there.
going to clown on Condor.
Oh. John was driving, so he didn't even get to look at them. So
Oh no. Well, there's always a VOD.
that's right. Hey, that's a
I
man of the
know.
cloth right there doing this while he's driving. True believer. Let's see here.
Should
I
good
think
and evil be?
we can hit another one here real quick. Um, let's see here. Should good and well, yeah, this one might be a definite one. Should good and evil be added to alignment, or should it have struck strictly to law and chaos? Um, my thoughts on that are it depends entirely on what your usage of alignment is and where you want to be it. If you're going to treat it more or less as faction play and on a more surface level, honestly, I would go good and evil over law and chaos personally. If you're going to use it as what it evolved into, the nine alignment system is superior.
I don't really have a strong opinion on this. I feel like there are some fundamentals to RPGs that really really matter. Some like load bearing rules and some certain things that you should strive for. However, I think either alignment system is probably fine. Now, I do think alignment has its place in D&D, and I think alignment is a good thing to include. I'm not one of those people that thinks you're better off without an alignment system. I think generally, so like a very vocal proponent of ditching the alignment system entirely that I know is Sandy Peterson. And I mean, I think in Call of Cthulhu, yeah, sure, that might make more sense. I'm mostly a Dungeons and Dragons person, and there's a reason for that. I could explain why I'm a Dungeons and Dragons person. But do I use alignment much in my games? Yes. Yeah, I do. I very much do. So different things I use alignment for. I use it a lot of times to guide how I role play at monsters. I use it for player characters. So, and I use it for the gods, especially. I think for the gods, it was a big guiding factor in how they played their god. And there are certain things that you can do in the game that will force you to change your alignment. Like you can certainly like if you commit murder or that's an extreme example. If you like so I have players, there's like a whole subsection of my game that's based off of the seven deadly sins and corruption, and that was completely player inserted. I didn't do that myself. And so like when they partake in certain sins, they will slowly become corrupted by moths. I know it makes like no sense when I say it, but and that will kind of shift their alignment to evil. And in my games, you can actually tell when someone has become corrupted by sin, because and again, this is something a player added. I didn't even add this, but they'll begin to glow a certain hue depending on the sin that has corrupted them. And so you'll basically be able to tell someone's alignment a lot of times by seeing, are they glowing? Which it's a weird thing to have like everyone have like some version of detect evil where like people glow when they are evil. And it's not universal. It's just if they've become corrupted by like these moth creatures. But it's a pretty good indicator that someone's going to be quite evil if you see them glowing in my game. So, and like I said, this was not even something I thought of or I even wanted to add. This was like a completely player made thing that sort of worked its way into our alignment system. Yeah, yeah.
I think it's an interesting way to look at it. Of course, I'm uh, my thoughts on alignment are, Michael here saying that we should do a full alignment stream next Thursday is what I ought to do.
Oh
I'm
gosh.
always like, how many hours of content do I need on alignment? Because the long and short of it is that to me alignment, aside from being fundamental forces of if you're going to use it, if it's going to be used properly, it needs to be a fundamental force of the universe. It's very objective. It has very clear definitions because there's absolutely no point in having any alignment, especially not that has any mechanical ramifications, if it's not extraordinarily objective. It has to be clearly defined.
Yeah.
But I always say alignment is a 10,000 yard view. It is not just your character's subconscious or a character's subconscious. It's literally the core of the way their brain and their ideas work. I use the example of the conversation we've all had at some point in time. We're sitting there having coffee with somebody, news comes on, and some crazy bank heist or something happened. And it's like, oh, they got away because they did some off the wall nonsense to make this heist work. And your friend looks over and he's like, how did they even think about that? I would never even think to do that. And it's like, well, of course you didn't think to do that. You're not a criminal. Your brain never went to do the criminal thing. So it definitely never went to better way to do the criminal thing. When you're a good character, it's not just that you don't do evil things. Your brain defaults to doing good things. When you're a lawful character, your brain defaults to the lawful answer is the superior answer. And that's where you start all decision making. Now, you may make a non lawful decision. You may act, quote unquote, out of alignment in individual cases, but your starting point is always where you're at. And it's very fundamental, which is why it should be very rare to change. Like, change should be magic, like instantaneous change. It should either be magic or like severe trauma type situation, or just they radically snapped, which is like, oh, I just did something that is so radically out of alignment that it's because you treat it like a psychotic break, or it's something that's super, super gradual. But that's my shot there. Let's see what's Dunder got to say
I
here
think
on
that's a
the
good way
movie.
to describe it. I think, yeah, I don't have much to add to that right off. I think that was very well described.
Thank you. Do you think dazzling YouTubers such as yourself should stick to 2014 or follow an audience in 2024? Well, I never made it to 2014, so I mean, I rejected 5e just like I rejected 4e. It didn't take me long to decide I didn't like it.
See, I'm the
So
opposite. I actually quite liked 5e. I quite liked it coming from 3.5. Um, I thought a simplification and streamlining was actually a pretty decent thing in this case because it made it easier to introduce to new players. But that's just me. I understand not everybody is the same there. Um, I would say on that, I think the hobby is getting slowly more fragmented. I think a lot of people are going to Shadow Dark, Axe, and not just those two. I think there's a lot of smaller players that and the hobby's just like fragmenting more in general. I think in general this is a good thing. Um, because it makes it more group centric instead of like everybody following what Wizards of the Coast is doing. So
that's
it's
true.
it's I think it's gonna get harder for YouTubers in some ways because I think YouTubers are either gonna have to continue following like 5e and making content for 5e because a lot of times you can probably shoehorn the same content in for like 5e in 2024, but also another approach I think a lot of people are gonna take is a more general TTRPG direction, like say things that'll apply to any TTRPG, which is pretty valid. One second, I'm gonna die.
I think you're absolutely right on that, though. That the long and short of it here, bless you, is it kind of depends on what
There we
your
go.
channel is and what direction you want to
Mm-hmm.
go. If
Yeah.
you are one of the channels that I've done, venomous reactions to lately, you're probably going to want to stick into the 2024 because your bread's buttered by the core D&D player base. Your bread is buttered by the critical role base. If you're stepping outside of D&D 2024, you're doing what's that stupid game called? Dagger Heart or something, or Draw Steel or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. That's what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
not going too far afield. But I think for the rest of us, and especially if you're somebody like you or I, because let's face it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm tiny in every single regard. You're tiny in a
Yeah.
YouTube regard, even in a
Yeah.
TTRPG, like compared to like your Jenny D's and your
Yeah.
XP level 3 and your Dungeon Dudes and your Professor
Sure.
DM and stuff. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just Mike's on a chicken's ass. But for anything that's outside of the scope of the, I guess we'll, for lack of a better expression, call them the big corporate channels or the very D&D vanilla driven channels that are hyper produced and whatnot. I think you have to step outside. I think you have to. I don't think you just abandon 2014. I think you have to be more generalist. You have to bring in more history. Like if you're going to stay 2014, you need to be looking at history and that sort of thing, and going
Yeah.
backwards, not staying.
And I followed a few channels who have actually done that rather successfully. There was a channel, there was this girl on YouTube I liked for a very long time who basically made like TTRPG videos, but her way of doing that was by covering like myths and legends and how to bring that in, how to like make she'll do things like how to integrate thief characters and give them like stuff to do and things like that that apply to like general RPGs. Her name is Dale Kingsmill, by the way. I really like her a lot. But I mean, she did a really good job with that, and there's other ways to do it, but I think the more generalist approach is going to be what we see from people who are trying to maintain both their 5e 2014 and 2024 audience. And to be perfectly honest, that's not like a massive departure from like what people were doing to begin with, because I like most RPG like advice channels generally have stuff that like can that can apply to multiple games anyway. Like most of it is not like super narrow advice that only applies to like one game. Oh yeah, Todd watches Dale too. She's great.
Might have to check that one out. Haven't heard that one up. Honestly,
Yeah.
the channel that I've recently, I guess you could say, attached myself to the most is not even a Dungeons and Dragons channel. It is now that you've said it, now that I've opened my mouth, I can't
You
even
forgot
remember
it.
what it is.
Oh no.
It's a booktube channel, and she's a very academic writer. It's actually kind of funny. I started with her. Videos disagreeing. Like, and when I say disagreeing, I mean like disagreeing kind of vehemently because of the direction she was coming, having to do with she was talking about the Del Rey era of fantasy writing, and actually this wouldn't be bad for um, for a lot of your uh, like bro SR types, people who are really heavily pushing Appendix N, because understanding the history, it's the second story is the channel. Pushing a lot of Appendix N type stuff, understanding kind of the history of the way some of these stories were controlled and put together, the way formula writing came to be a thing, which I think most of our friends in the Bro SR would agree with me that formula writing was pretty damaging to fantasy fiction. But she's got a lot of good videos on things like characterization and what makes a good story and that sort of thing, that can be very easily adapted into producing I think better characters and better situations, both as a GM and a player.
Pardon me for 1 minute. I
See your
apologize. I will be right back.
Go right ahead. She has frozen us. So let me see here. While she is gone, let's see here. Let's take a look through the old chat, folks. Yes, Dunder, that is not missed on me, the car guy that is obsessed with alignment, and not to mention that somebody who is quite a fan of dad jokes and puns. Let's see here, and yes, you did meet some engine speak earlier for sure. Let's see here. What do your in-game actions say about your real-life personage, and should we trust the exceptionally imaginative RPGer if their plans include genius-level criminality and murder, hobo, genocide? I don't think they say much of anything about your character as a person or thought process as a individual, as long as they're in game. Now, where I would say it's different, it's not the actual character's actions that would say it, but good, bad, or otherwise, whatever the excuse, if your character is constantly doing the traditional, it's what my character would do, and screwing up the game for everybody, that says a whole hell of a lot about the in real life persona of the player.
So I would say that in-game actions about IRL persona, like IRL's personage, I think you can probably trust that if your DM is diabolical about some criminal things, they probably watch a lot of crime documentaries. I think you can get a lot from that. It's not just like how your mind works. Like, I'll be honest, I've like totally plagiarized the plot from like an episode of Monk, like that old AMC series from like the early 2000s. Totally plagiarized the plot from an episode of Monk for a murder mystery once. Um, Sorry, I'm having to get up because one of the kittens is like screaming bloody murder because mom like flopped down on him by accident. I think he's good now. Yeah, he seems
Yes,
good.
under
He's fine.
intelligence is your dump stat. I appreciate you plugging my stuff in my own chat. Yeah, his he's landing the puns tonight.
mm, mm. Yeah, Dunder's pretty good at that. Academic tube and
Yeah, I
religion
think
tube
Michael
is
Dale's
top
good on that one
tier.
too. Academic tube and religion tube is top tier. I think it really is. When you
Yeah.
start looking at like it's one of the beautiful things about, especially if you're going to be a GM, and absolutely if you're going to do world building, studying and like I'm big on history tube, on listening to like in particular, and I'll put this out there. Harmon, you tell me what you think about this. I think reaction channels within their genre are actually more valuable than the actual YouTubers. So, like for instance, if I'm going to do History Tube, I'm not going to go pull up a history channel. I'm going to pull up Vlogging Through History and watch him do a reaction to the history video and add the additional context and whatnot to everything that's going in. But whether it's religion tube, academia, any of these things, I think that's a very, very powerful resource for a world builder or a
So
GM.
I would definitely say it's not more valuable because they wouldn't exist without the videos to react to. However, I don't hate reaction channels at all. I think reaction channels are serve an important purpose, which is to expose their audience to creators that they would have never heard of otherwise. I'll be honest, I don't really watch a lot of like reaction stuff, so I'm not really sure.
Well, I'm,
um,
I'm, I'm speaking specifically within their genre. So,
yeah,
for instance,
sure.
instead of watching, and I would watch both videos, I always tend to watch the original video too. But let's say you got an oversimplified history video about the Napoleonic Wars or about the American Civil War. You learn a lot from that. And then you have the blogging through history or the Mr. Terry's history reaction to that same video. You get the same content from the video plus the added content from the historian or whoever who's reacting to it. In that case, I think it's more valuable to a game master who is wanting to, you know, assess those ideas and how to use them in game. Not
That's
that they're more valuable as a channel than the original creators.
that's fair. Um, I like Dice Tales comment here. My IRL personality keeps me from playing evil characters. I just don't like doing it, and I can't force myself to do just awful stuff even in a game. I read a study a while back, and I have no idea how true this is, so this could just be like completely wrong. But I read a while back that like that's kind of a difference between how men and women approach games, and that men a lot of times make characters that echo their real life selves, and they kind of insert themselves and kind of make it like um, make their characters do things that they want to do in real life. And women will like take the freedom, and women will like make characters that do what they can't do in real life. So women will be like, I don't know what it's like to be evil. I've never been evil before. So like I want to be just super evil in this game just to, play around with what it's like. Now that said, I don't really play evil characters. I usually play good characters. I think good characters are a lot harder to play and it's more fun, but
Uh,
um, I'm
I've
I'm
played them
mostly
all.
like I'm like a lawful good player a lot of times. I don't know. I've done some pretty messed up stuff in D&D over the years for sure, so I don't
Well,
know.
that's also kind of goes back to what I was
Yeah.
saying as far as my view on alignment and its proper use is you're absolutely right. I'm not an evil bastard, so I don't know how to be an evil bastard.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
if I have a definitive alignment system that tells me evil bastard does these things, I can say, ha ha, I know how to be evil now. And I know how to play that. So I think that's
yeah,
actually a use of the proper use of it. And it allows you to expand and think in other ways. But I can definitely see that. It's like, I mean, because we all have, you can always take that out as far as it needs to go. And there's a limit to everybody where it's like, I don't care what alignment your character is. I don't want that in my game. And none of us want that in our game. Everybody has that limit they get to. His limit may be like, I'm just not comfortable being a jackass in the game when I'm not a jackass in real life.
for sure. Todd asked, how will you define the difference between chaotic good and lawful good? Um,
Mm,
I think so. My gut answer would be on that. I don't. I probably don't play them as differently to each other as I should. I think the main difference for me would be how often can you bend the rules? Um, if you have like a strict moral code, how much is it okay to bend the moral code in extenuating circumstances? I feel like a lawful good character is more rigid and that they're going to follow their code, even if there's like a place where maybe the good thing to do is to break it. They're going to stick to their moral code and then kind of go through lawful channels to accomplish something. So, like, if they know that somebody is a murderer, for example, and he's on the loose, then I think a lawful good character would try to pursue legal methods to get him arrested and go through a proper trial. A chaotic good character may just go for a more vigilante justice approach. Um, and I think that's probably the difference to me. So I did a write up on like what I think the difference is between neutral good and evil, and why I think a lot of people mischaracterize evil as neutral as evil sometimes, or evil as neutral. They'll play like characters that are quite evil and then call it neutral because they think that, oh man, this was like a long time ago. I haven't thought about this in a while. But I think it's because like a lot of people will think that neutral means that you're only out to help yourself, and evil is like doing evil for evil's sake. But I don't think that's true. I don't think that evil necessarily means you're trying to inflict harm upon others. I think evil is actually negligence. Like you may even go out of your way not to inflict harm, but you're not going to go far out of your way, you know?
well,
Um,
I look at that because, like I said, this is one of my peccadillos. I mean, I've done
mhm.
two series on alignment. I'm
Oh,
halfway
yeah,
through the
see,
third. Hey, that is
this isn't
my
my
thing.
forte.
I think
Hmm.
one of the big things to think about here is like you need to understand that chaotic good and lawful good are, obviously they're two separate alignments, but it's not I'm lawful and I'm good. It is I'm lawful good. I am a specific type of good. I'm chaotic good. I am a specific type of good. Chaotic good and lawful good are just as differentiated from each other as lawful evil and lawful good. Okay? It's just a matter of where the extreme is. And the way I usually try to break it down and the way I broke it down in my series is that here's the difference between lawful and chaos when you're talking about as a modifier to the good. Lawful looks long term, down the road, expansive. It looks at the system as a whole. You know
Hmm.
this principle applied overall is going to do the most good the most often. Therefore, that system is important. chaotic is going to be extremely inward focused, moment focused. What is the
Okay.
most
Yeah,
good that I can accomplish at this exact moment, regardless of what ramifications it may have down the road? In this instance, this is the most good. I can deal with the future later. Lawful says, yeah, maybe we should run over there and cut those people down from the gallows and stuff, or maybe we should do this, or maybe we should let the system work out because it's not worth breaking the entire system to save this one evil act.
Yeah, I think I agree with your explanation. It's a much better thought out explanation than mine is. You've made a whole series about it. No, I think I agree about it, but like mostly I think it's kind of the difference between going back to my example. Like if you're lawful good, you understand that the best thing to do long term is to let the legal system take care of the murderer because we have the presumption of innocence, we have like a whole system set to deal with this, and this is probably better long term. But if you're chaotic good, well, justice is justice, I think that's a actually fantastic way to explain it. I like your explanation. I accept that. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And you were talking a minute ago about neutral versus evil, and really, here's your difference. Good is self-facing. I am or good thinks about others. In everything, I think about the good of others first, then myself. So when something's happening, like let's say there's a we're running away from the ogre or whatever, I'm thinking as a good character about how I can protect and do the most good for the people that are running with me. Neutral is more situational and more balanced, and it's like we're all running. Evil is I will think of myself before everyone else in all ways, and I have no care as to how, as long as it's the best for me, I'll do it. So good, neutral, evil characters all running away from the ogre. Good characters trying to make sure that everybody gets over first, is harming his own run to clear stuff out of the way, is stopping to try and hold up the ogre so everybody can get away. Neutral's just running. Evil is trying to find ways to trip people.
Yeah, I would say so. I do think a misconception that I see a lot is it is kind of between neutral and evil. And so I think that good is going out of your way to help people. Neutral is you don't try to harm others. You try and steer clear of harming others. If you're trying not to harm, that's neutral. And you may even help sometimes when it's convenient, but neutral, I think, has a duty to go out of their way not to harm. But evil is not really a desire to harm, but a desire to do what's going to get you ahead at whatever cost. Is taking a single action of something like vengeance enough to sway a PC's alignment permanently? I swear, alignment's not my strong suit, so.
It depends.
But this is what we're talking about today.
He's gonna get his. He's gonna get his stream on alignment.
Yeah.
The easy answer is no. The correct answer is it depends, and then there's a very, very long answer on that. Anything like that, when you talk about kind of single action change of an alignment permanently outside of like magic or some major trauma or something, it has to be something really, really like life changing. Like I said earlier, I kind of think of it like a psychotic break. I'll give you a perfect example from comic books. There is a Superman arc. I think it's called Injustice: Gods Among Us. And basically, the Joker kills pregnant Lois Lane. And Superman snaps and punches his fist through Joker's chest. And from that point on, he's an absolute tyrant because he's decided that no more truth, justice, American way. I'm the most powerful being in the planet, and I can make everybody not do these things by the force of my power. He's spying on people with his super hearing. He's looking through people's houses with his X-ray vision, and everybody's terrified that Superman's going to see them step out of line and say, well, you're eventually going to do bad, so I'm going to heat ray you into non-existence. That is Superman going from lawful good to lawful evil like that from one instance. That is extraordinarily written.
Um. Uh-oh. Oh, there you are. Sorry, you lagged out. Um, I very much apologize, but my blood sugar is low and I need to go
We're
eat something. Um,
we're closing in on I think
okay.
2 hours now anyway. So, um,
Okay. I need to eat
anything else you
something
want
like
to
right
say out
now.
there before we close up?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything else you'd like to lay out there before we close out?
No, my brain is jello because I'm actually having a low right now and I need to go eat
So
something. I have
you
like
go on and do
massive
you. I
brain fog.
appreciate you coming on to be with me.
But
And
yeah, it was a great discussion. Thank you for inviting me. I didn't know what to expect because I don't think we've ever spoken before. But I do appreciate the discussion, and I actually need to get out of here right now and eat
absolutely go
something. I
ahead.
apologize. But thank you. All
Thank you so
right.
much for coming on.
Bye.
Well, guys, that is we're almost double the time that was expected there. Uh, absolutely 100% thanks to Harmony for coming on and making this stream happen. Thanks to everybody who popped in, dropped a super chat, and to help out our boy Aten. If you haven't, check out his channel. We love our TTRPGs and Crypt Talk. Lots of cool stuff over there. Um, obviously, check out mine and Harmony's channel and everything we got going on. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with us and being in the chat. I think there's 17, 18 of us in here right now. But I think that's pretty much where we're going to call it. Smash that like button on the way out the door, guys. But love having you guys, and I guess maybe we'll do another one sometime here soon. Next time I've got a good reason to stream. Who knows? Maybe one of these days I'll get better at it. So, guys, have a good one.